Having an open mind is the key to learning and growing. So, in this video, I want to talk about having an open mind, how to identify if your mind is open or if your mind's closed, and how to improve those things in your life. So, for a lot of my younger life, I feel like I did have uh, partially closed mind. I, which my ego got involved as well. The feeling that I was always right has a big impact on yourself and your closed mind. So when people get into arguments a lot, or they they have that feeling inside of them that they're right, that's a that's definitely a huge sign that they have a closed mind. So in the beginning, when I talked about having an open mind is what causes you to learn and grow, the way that we view the world has all been dictated based off of how we were raised by our parents, what society has told us, and thoughts and beliefs that have been developed ever since we've been a kid. So, for instance, if you take someone that's raised in a completely different area of the world and they were raised in a different culture, in a different area, their parents had different thoughts and beliefs, their society is different. And let's say you take a situation where I look at the situation and I say, this is how I look at it, and I know that's right. The other person from the other culture that's been raised differently, they might look at the situation in a completely different way, right? And that could be right to them. So when we're talking about truth or what that situation means to us, that was developed through our beliefs, and we believe that to be true, right? So all truths are half truths. What that's saying is that we're not always right. We believe it to be right or correct. So just because that truth was true that specific time doesn't mean it'll be true in the future, right? So our truth changes as we develop our beliefs. Might change our beliefs, um, our thinking patterns, or our thoughts altogether. Now, I'll explain to you an experience that I've had in my life that relates to having an open mind versus a closed mind. For my brothers and I, we were raised Catholic, and in Western civilization, Christianity is very prominent. And at a young age, our thoughts and beliefs are put onto us because we haven't had any experience in real life to relate or think on our own. As I got older, I asked myself a pretty hard question, right? Because I truly believe in God and in the universe. It looks it looks it looks different to me now than it used to, which I'm grateful for. Um, but there's always been a question that I've asked myself when I got a little older: is what if I were to be born in the Middle East? I can almost guarantee that I would be Muslim, right? And if I were to be Muslim and raised by parents that were Muslim and they put beliefs onto us and thought that was the right thing, right? I have nothing against religion, or I'm not knocking any religion. Um, I'm just making a point that if I was born and raised that way, that in that moment, I would believe that my religion was correct as well, right? And I would be saying that Christianities weren't right. But since I was born and raised Catholic, which is Christianity, I was raised to believe that Muslims aren't right, or Buddhists, or Hindus, or right. And if we can all agree that in almost any religion, they all believe in God or multiples of gods, right? So that's the take that I've taken, right? And I didn't always think like that, right? So I had a very closed mind. And I've grown to have a very open mind. And I think part of that is being able to see a different perspective. So if you have a closed mind and you aren't even willing to see the other side or listen to what the other person has to say, you don't have any room for growth. You just think you know everything. But look, we've learned everything from someone or something else, right? So there's a theory that says everyone around us are our teachers, which means we're constantly seeing ourselves being reflected off of others, which is then showing us how we can grow. Okay, and you have to have an open mind in those moments to see that. If you're just having a closed mind and you're denying, like, there's no way that can be me reflecting back to me because of my thoughts and actions, right? Majority of the time an argument is because of ourselves. It doesn't align with our thoughts or our beliefs. So that's why we disagree, and then we are angry, upset, or we have a disagreement. But if you can acknowledge that everything in the world is neutral and we give it meaning, that's a very open-minded concept. And you have to have an open mind to even understand that or comprehend it, right? Because if society has told us anything, right, like we have laws, people are put away for a certain amount of time because they did this, right? But if they did, let's say, a robbery, and society has told us typically that person, the max sentencing is going to be 20 years, right? Like, we determined throughout time that it's at this point of wrongdoing, so that's going to be 20 years, right? Now, we determined that throughout time from, evidence and proof and information, um, which, as human nature, like, I think that's fair. But these are all things to think of in having an open mind, and that's just one example. So, something I've learned over the years, especially, is I will always listen to someone's opinion or thoughts, even if my opinion is very strong and I'm leaning towards the decision that I've already made. Um, especially if it's with people that I am close with or I respect their opinion to a higher degree, I will always listen to what they have to say. It's not that I'm going to take their opinion and run with it and say, like, that's that's the correct way to do it, right? But at least I will have a different perspective to be able to look at it and then evaluate, like, hey, maybe this person could be onto something or have a valid point, that I'm not looking at it in the correct way from what I thought was right. Right? Now, if you have a closed mind, there's no way you're listening to that person, no matter who they are. Right? If your ego is way up there, I can also almost guarantee that very wealthy or successful people have open minds, especially inventors. Having an open mind also allows the ability to ask a lot of questions to yourself, to the situation, to others. And if you've noticed, our brains have to answer a question when we ask it. Your subconscious is going to, if it doesn't know the answer, your subconscious is going to start searching for an answer, right? And that's where, if your brain doesn't know the answer and your subconscious starts to work, those are areas of your brain that your subconscious hasn't accessed in a while, which then makes your brain work in a different way, and it's causing your subconscious to learn and grow. just by asking questions. When you ask yourself questions, your brain's going to come up with some kind of information that it's had using the past or relative experience. Even if it's something it doesn't know, it's going to search and search and search. And the more questions you ask, the more searching it's going to do, and it'll find the most optimal answer for you. The way our subconscious works for finding an answer that's optimal. I've made a video in the past about how your subconscious is going to find like the quickest, easiest, and least resistance response possible, including answers. So that's why it takes from past experience or situations in life that we've experienced to find that answer. But it can only relate to what it knows. So having an open mind expands all of those answers or thoughts that it can search for. So if you have a closed mind and you say like, no, I know this is what the answer is, that's where your subconscious stops. And to me, that's where the learning stops. That's where the growing stops, which is, in my opinion, quite sad. To have an open mind, you don't have to believe everything you hear, because that can be very tricky or dangerous. But ponder those ideas, right? Ask the questions, study, do research, experiment, right? If you're experimenting yourself with theory that you've learned or something you heard or a new idea, or like that's real data or information that you've found in yourself by trying it yourself, right? Anyone can tell me something that they truly believe is true, and I could believe it, right? Like if they're that convincing and their energy is flowing, I could, yeah, that person's right? Like no matter what it is they're saying. Did I do my part consciously to know that that most likely is true or what I believe to be true, right? So I've done these experiments with manifesting my desire and passion. And this is why I'm so passionate about this and like helping other people, because I've done it myself and I see it. Like it's it works. And like this is how the mind works. So I want to share this information with you guys um to help you grow and learn yourselves and transform the way your mind works and operates. It's quite fascinating, and it's very interesting. Um, in the next video, I'll talk about how we create our own reality, and that whole subject is just mind blowing. Um, I've done experimenting on that as well, and look, I'm not here to. I think I talked about this in the first video. Is like I'm not here to convince anyone about anything, right? Like I'm not how beliefs and thoughts have been put onto us since young kids or through the government, throughout time. That's not my intention. My intention is to help people find a freedom in themselves through their minds. And there's this quote, um, and there's this page in Think and Grow Rich, the book, and it's talking about the human brain and how magnificent it is. And Napoleon Hill mentions in there how it's talking about all the brain waves and the electrodes going on through the brain, and he goes, "Why would the brain be so magnificent just to control a physical body?" Like, just think about that for a second. our physical body is great and all, but like the mind is so incredibly powerful that yes, and then the next video I'm going to talk about, but like you can literally create and control your reality based off of your thoughts and emotions. So while thinking about that, yeah, to me it proves that like our mind is not just made to control our physical body. There's way more to life in this world than we see in our conscious physical form. I'm really excited to be making another video right now, and um, I can't wait to make the next video talking about creating our own reality and how powerful the mind is. If you like the content that I'm putting out, or you'd like me to cover something specifically, go ahead and comment below, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.